So this is called Moments in Love. Love is a very strong word, full of emotions, and I think it's the right word. It's very important that you love what you do. And the growth of that love is a journey, and this is about my journey. This is going to be a personal history of technology, I hope. The timer just started. I'm just going to let this slide run. I'm very sorry to everyone else. I got 10 seconds more.
That was my fault.
So I'm going to talk about some moments in love. I'm going to give you a personal history of technology. A personal history of personal technology. It's going to be my history and how I came to be here at this point in my life in this medium that I care a lot about. Although it's not the only thing I'm passionate about. I'm not a complete geek. So we're going to look through this. I'm going to start in my childhood, come forward a bit, and I'm going to go quite slowly. Chain quote, quote. I'm 5 or 6. My cousins have an Acorn Electron. And to load a game, you put in a tape, you type that, you hit play, and you wait 20 minutes. This is the first time I've seen data flow, and it's utterly magic. I'm 7, and I'm at school. Shift break. This is how you load things on a BBC. You put the disc in, you hit shift break. We get a PC at home. And I tell my dad, I know how to load stuff, you hit shift break. And he says, not on this one, you don't. And he gives me the DOS 3 manual, and it's this big. And I read it cover to cover, and I write a batch file. The first tool I use is the Norton editor. And I wrote stories in it. I didn't just write stories, I couldn't program, so I wrote manuals for games and programs that didn't exist because I couldn't make them. I drew diagrams in ASCII. And the moment my dad saw me writing dialogue, he said, oh, if you want to write stories, don't use that. And he gave me a tool far better suited to fiction, which was WordPerfect, an absolutely wonderful word processor if you've ever used it. And I used this till I was 14, churning out essays and stories, and it was my first creative tool. This was the first time I created, really. And also, the reveal codes function, when you saw how the document worked, it's just like HTML. Bold on, bold off. I work in HTML today. This is one of the first games I ever really played to death. This is Prince of Persia. It's an absolutely formative experience of play, because the game itself only takes an hour. You've only got an hour to win. I've played it for hundreds of hours. It's short-form narrative, and I'm getting faster and faster, and I still can't finish it. Same story again and again. I'm about 9, and there's a documentary on BBC Two in our country called The Dream Machine, which is a history of computing, right back to Babbage, back to Turing. This is the first time I see a difference engine. This is the first time I see the Xerox PARC demos. This is the first time I really see the past of this technology as well as the future. And you really get to go off what the old stuff is. C. So I programmed a fair bit in BASIC, like everyone does, and I did a school maths project in it when I was 15, because I was lazy and didn't want to do something a lot. And then my dad, who was a programmer, said, you should learn C. I was 13. So I got up to functions, and that was cool, and then I hit pointers, and it all fell apart. But it came in handy later. What I did get really good at, though, is this, and this is HyperCard, which just really blew my mind when I was 10. I'm playing with it, and this is an application. And there's data, and there's user interface, and there's scripting, and it's one big holistic whole. It's the most remarkable tools I've ever used, and people today still don't get that holistic whole and make me do one bit of it and not the others. This is the first piece of social software. This is Quake World Team Fortress. I played this for 3 years with about 20 other guys. There's no personal score, it's entirely team-based. I spent 3 years practicing working as a team. It is really social software. You can't work without other people. Everyone has defined roles. It's very communist in a weird way. My first website. So I'm 15 or 16, there's a crappy GUI tool in the computer room, and I find GeoCities, and I hack it up, and it's not there anymore, thank God. But this is the first taste of working on the web, this is my first taste of hand coding, and it was there I'd published it. My job today is writing HTML, and it started in that computer room. Janet. Janet is the university network. It is screamingly fast. And I get to university and I have like a 10 meg line in my room. And this is the first time I've had broadband. Connectivity, always on, not always off. And it changed my life. And then when I got home, I had to live on 56k and I hated it. And so about 3 or 4 months into university, I find this. And I'm 18 and I sign up in February 2001. And I was at the end of the beginning of the first wave of UK blogging. This is how I made a lot of friends. This is actually how I learned a lot about what I might want to do. And it's kind of one of the key reasons I'm here. I met a lot of people who shaped me a bit through blogging. And then I got hosting, because I wanted comments on my blog, and back then that meant movable type. And so I bought hosting, and this is the first time I've ever owned a target for an FTP program. I've had FTP programs, but I owned it. I'm still on the same cheapo shared hosting. It's the first thing I had that could run scripting applications, and that's where I really started playing with the web. It's a bit of a cliche. I bought a Mac. And the shiny GUI is lovely and the hardware's not that bad, but the X at the end is important. The terminal and the command line. I'm going back to what I did with DOS as an 8-year-old. I wouldn't have learned the languages I know now, I wouldn't work in them if it wasn't for this. And I recommend to anyone looking for computers that they buy Macs, because you can fiddle with it, and you can play with it. Prince of Persia again, this is the new one. I did a talk on gaming at a conference in the States, and everyone kept saying, what's your favourite game? And it's this, because it's that old game I loved, and it's the most beautiful combination of narrative and play all at once. And the thing that binds them together is emotion, and it's magical, and it made me grin a lot when I first played it. And this is where I am, right here and right now. And I've been here nearly 2 days now at this conference, and it's exercising me in ways I haven't been exercised for a while, and a lot of impetus. I've had a lot of motivation from the talks to keep doing what I'm doing, keep going on this journey, which right now I really needed. I was in a bit of a slough. And everything I've shown you adds up to me. I've worked in new media for 3 years now out of university, and whilst the work is good, the journey, and the journey does take place more outside work, is better, and it's the really exciting part. And today and yesterday have moved it on a whole lot. And I think next year, when I do this talk again, it's going to be 30 slides, and they'll be 30 seconds each.